Okay, so this week we're going to concentrate on a time period called the early dynastic period. And so what I want to do is just give you a quick overview of what we'll be looking at this week. The biggest thing about the early dynastic period is you can tell just from the name. So dynastic meaning kings or pharaohs, of course, for ancient Egypt. And what you start to see is a consolidation of lots of different things happening during this period. Part of what's going on is that you find a consolidation of political power, where you've got the joining of Upper and Lower Egypt under one ruler. And this is made possible because you have an organized economy. And a lot of these things, as you'll see, are all tied together. As the population gets larger, you have an organized workforce. And then all of this is made possible only because of agriculture. And of course, agriculture is possible because of the Nile. So we're talking about environment and sustainability issues. We also see a lot of evidence for this consolidation. You can look at different places like the growth of royal tombs. And I made this little chart here where we've talked about pit burials a couple of weeks ago. And then you have brick-lined pit burials. And then, sorry about the text, it's upside down. You've got burials that are happening underground, like the pit burials, and then they're starting to build these buildings on top called mastabas, and we'll look at a few of those. And then that ultimately leads to building of these extremely large pyramids. We also have evidence that this is happening because we find a growth of administration. This slide, and I'll talk about this one in more detail this week, you've got a main center tomb for a pharaoh, and then you've got all of these things called subsidiary tombs, and these are extra tombs, and these are almost certainly tombs of advisors and people who worked for the pharaoh. Early on, they were probably people who were sacrificed when the pharaoh died, but that only happens in like Dynasty 1, maybe a bit of Dynasty 2, but then it ends after that. And then finally, of course, we want to really think about sustainability. So this is a drier period, as we talked about in the pre-dynastic period. What this ends up doing is under this new political power and growth in population, growth of a workforce, you see irrigation projects starting during the early dynastic period. And of course, this is another circular thing. If you have more irrigation, you have more food, which leads to larger population, and then greater political control, and so on. So these are some of the things that we'll look at this week. And I found some pretty interesting objects, at least I hope they're interesting to you, that will hopefully show a little bit about what's going on during this time period.